Hello and welcome to your Monday morning edition of the Doster, T.O. and Fanta podcast. It is the DTF podcast here on the Field of 68 Media Network. We are presented by our partners over at Bet River Sportsbook. We got a lot to talk about today, guys. We are going to be diving into a Big Ten preview, and I have a feeling, I'll be honest, that Terrence Oglesby is not going to make a lot of fans and a lot of friends in the Midwest by the time this show is over. We also took some questions from people from Twitter that we're going to answer before we get into that. But first and foremost, guys, I want to talk to you about this. So John Calipari and Mark Few made it official. We are going to have a 6-year, 6-game series between Gonzaga and Kentucky. I got it written down here. This year, they're playing at Spokane Arena, obviously in Spokane. They're playing at Rupp Arena next year. Then they're playing in Seattle and in Nashville the next 2 years. Then at Rupp again in 2026 and at the Kennel in 2027. I love this. I don't think I could possibly love this anymore. I think this is exactly what you need for college basketball. I love these big non-conference games. Fanta, where do you stand on this? Is this a good thing for the sport?
The sport needs more of this. This is outstanding for college basketball. And you have to give immense credit to Mark Few and John Calipari for coming together and making this happen. I loved when this was announced. Remember, with the flood victims in the Kentucky area, Kentucky held a telethon, and Mark Few called into it on the Jumbotron. That alone was really, really awesome as part of that event. To now have it be 6 years is such a great standard setter. And guys, I was thinking about non-conference scheduling a little bit in the last week. And I don't think that we talk about this at all, but during COVID, when a lot of the matchups were getting lined up randomly, and some of the big brands and the great teams were just trying to schedule other high-level teams, and there was kind of this looseness to it, I thought that helped college basketball, and I thought that helped coaches be like, you know what, screw it. I'm tired of just doing cupcakes and whatnot. We got to play games, so we got to schedule people. They saw the benefits of that, and I think now you're in a place where matchups are getting scheduled more and more between the heavyweights because the heavyweights realize there's a lot of reward to the matchup and there's not a whole lot of harm to the matchup. So for Kentucky and Gonzaga, it's outstanding. It's a win-win-win. It's a win for the Wildcats. It's a win for the Zags. And it's a win for all of us. And to have it be 6 years, I'm now curious to see if we'll see other big brands get together. And man, what a boss move by Cal and Kentucky, because they've got the game at Gonzaga, even though it's not at the Kennel this season. But he made sure, after all the clamor, after all the fans, you don't think he listens? He's John Calipari. Of course he listened.
Well, he also did it.
Putting the game at the Kennel was awesome.
It's awesome. He also did it in 2027. And I'm going to go ahead and say that we're presented by Bet Rivers, right? I'm going to say that I'll give you plus 150 odds that John Calipari is no longer coaching by the time that game is actually played. So it's savvy. It's savvy. No, I'm just kidding. Like I love it. I think it's great. And look, they're not playing at the Kennel. They're going to be playing at a 12,000 seat arena where you're going to be able to get twice as many Gonzaga fans into that building. It's not going to be the on-campus venue, but it's still going to be an awesome, difficult environment for them to go into. T.O., I think that more games like this need to happen. I love the fact that we have the Champions Classic every single year. I love the ACC Big Ten Challenge. I love the SEC Big 12 Challenge. I love what the Maui Invitational is, what the Battle for Atlantis is turning into. I loved what was the one in Alaska called? I'm blanking on it. Like all of those tournaments,
the Alaska Shootout, right?
The Great Alaska Shootout. All of those big events that people can connect with and identify with, and they know it's going to happen. It makes college basketball relevant at a point in the season when basketball really is not all that big of a deal. Let's be honest. November, December, like that's football season, that's holiday season, that's final season. Anything that you can do to make college basketball be a headline, to make it be something that is going to lead into SVP Sports Center on ESPN, right? To make it be something where you have to get Gus Johnson on the call for a game on a Saturday before the turn of the calendar. Like all of that stuff is fantastic for the sport. And this is absolutely going to be one of those things.
Well, I'm great. Thanks for asking. But outside of that, like I give Gonzaga credit. They're going to Texas this year down in Austin. I mean, they played Texas at home last year. Credit to Chris Beard for doing that. And all those things that you talked about, the Maui, the Alaska Shootout, the Battle for Atlantis, all these great tournaments, it still takes away a little bit of that home court advantage where you have the big dogs and they get to come to your own backyard. I think that's a big part. That's a lot of fun as well. And I love the pettiness with the home, and then the kennel ends up 7 years later or 6 years later, or what God knows how long. I can't count that far, but like to be able to have them go to the kennel, I think that's really, really cool. And that also, I love that it's almost like a jab by Calipari to be like, yeah, we'll do it. We'll do it. They'll do it. They will do it. And then, he kind of will be able to remove himself a little bit. Who knows how much longer Coach Calipari coaches. I hope that he sticks around because I just think he's one of the most quality personalities in all of college basketball because of his his perspectives, his showmanship, and all that stuff. But to be able to get one at the kennel is awesome.
I was having this conversation with Doug Gottlieb the other day, right? With Coach K gone, all of a sudden you're in a position where you don't really have those massive personalities in the sport, right? Like Jim Boeheim, I don't know if he necessarily qualifies as one anymore, and he's also at the point where, like, how much longer is this 78-year-old going to be coaching, right? Bill Self, is he this big international face of basketball that is going to be a headline anytime he has something to say, that can be a headline anytime he needs to talk, that can change the narrative of a situation just by coming out and saying something? I don't know if he's quite there yet. I don't think Scott Drew's there. I don't think Tony Bennett's there. So it's kind of like Cal is the last of a dying breed, I guess, and the last of his generation. And having him be willing, Fanta, to come out here and be public and be able to have fun with, like, it's not all serious with him. And I think that's something that I appreciate.
Yeah, and I think with age and with time, that Cal's leaned into everything that we talk about too. Like, and I think that's awesome. I mean, he is the best. I know that last week on the podcast, everybody was talking about Eric Musselman being the modern day guy that can build the program and leans into the marketing side of things. But make no mistake about it. If the Must Bus is your Popeyes, the emerging scene in the chicken industry, let's just call it what it is. John Calipari will always be Colonel Sanders to college basketball.
Well done. I was wondering where you were going with that. I was really wondering where you were going with that. Well done.
In terms of the standard bearer, Colonel Sanders will always stand on a pedestal above everybody. I hated those commercials a couple years ago when different people were acting as Colonel. There's only one Colonel Sanders. There's only one John Calipari. And I think that he has gotten looser. He's gotten more fun on social media. His Twitter is a lot of fun because, like, he's the one that's tweeting, or so I feel that way. Like, I actually think that John is the one that's taking out his phone and tweeting those things because the pronunciation or the punctuation makes sense. It looks like it's coming from a coach. I love this for college hoops. And I know that I was hard on Cal over the offseason. The only reason why I was being hard on him was because we know what the standard is at Kentucky. And you want to have expectations. You want to have pressure. I can say in the same light that John Calipari is awesome at doing this type of stuff, and he's great for college basketball. While it's also true, guys, that this is one of Cal's biggest years at the helm in Lexington. I was talking with a general manager yesterday who was at Kentucky's Pro Day, and he said to me, they're loaded. He's like, Case and Wallace, big time. He loves everything he saw from Wallace. And Oscar Tshiebwe, he said, it's gotten better. And Tshiebwe's shooting the basketball. So, like, Kentucky is a team that can win the national championship. And I've said that they, frankly, should be in the Final Four. And when you have those types of standards, you're going to have pressure on you. So you could say both those things at once, guys. Can you not?
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. And we don't need to relitigate the argument about whether or not Coach Cal has a little bit of pressure on him this season. He does. When you go
revenge season, Kentucky.
Yeah, when you follow up a 9-16 season with a first round exit from the NCAA tournament and you were the head coach at Kentucky, like, you got to start getting some shit done at some point. All right, I want to ask you guys this. Tia, I'm going to you first. I gave you a homework assignment. I want to know what series, if you could pick one between two programs that are going to play 6 years in a row, home and home, some neutral, whatever it is. You want two teams that are guaranteed locked in to play 6 straight seasons. Who would it be that is not currently doing it? TL, you go first.
Just because of the history of the two programs, and one's on the rise, I would like to see I'm going to stay with Kentucky, Indiana. I think that one would be a good one. I think Woodson's doing a nice job. They're getting talent to come in there pretty consistently, and Kentucky, they're close, and that's two really passionate fan bases. Like Kentucky, I think Indiana's on the upswing to a point to where they haven't been, gosh, guys, in a long time. And it's close because Trace Jack, all these guys, like they're starting to get dudes in. And what was it? Two of the two top rated recruits in the Big Ten both went to Indiana. This is a program on the rise and going to continue to do so. And you're going to be able to keep up those two with those fan bases being relatively close together. So if you want to pick like Duke and Texas,
and they don't like each other,
UCLA, something like that, I think Indiana, Kentucky could be a really good one because of all the tradition from both schools.
Yeah, I had the same thing written down. Like Kentucky and Indiana played for a long time, and I think it was like every year until 2012, and then the last time that they played was the shot that Christian Watford hit, and then they played in the NCAA tournament that same season, right? So I this was tough for me because you can't really put the blue bloods together because Duke and Kansas and Kentucky are already playing in the Champions Classic. We already pretty much get Kentucky and Kansas every year in the SEC Big 12 Challenge. The rivalries that don't really exist anymore because of conference realignment are kind of irrelevant, like Kansas and Missouri, whatever, Houston, Georgetown, whatever, Pitt, West Virginia. That was fun in football, but like, who cares in basketball, right? Gonzaga, Washington, maybe.
By the way, Pitt, get your stuff together. Get it together, Pitt.
Come on,
like good Lord,
Jeff.
like
Tristan Freeman is out here dying.
He is dying
for every loss that they have. Please help my man out.
Man, you know what's crazy? I'm going to jump off on a little tirade real quick. Pitt, get it to freaking together, man. Like you've got talent. They're finally going to be good enough. And then this bonehead gets in trouble again. They always got a guy in trouble.
What does good enough even mean?
Yeah. Do you remember when they had Xavier Johnson and Julian Champagny and who was the guy that
Justin Champagny,
Justin Champagny and Audi's Tony, and they had all of these guys that ended up being great players at different programs that had all the success in the NCAA tournament. And then remember when they were all on the same team and then that thing blew up?
Get
it together, Pitt.
He is upset. All right. So I think Kentucky.
Sorry, Pitt, West Virginia. I completely.
Yeah, he went on. I didn't finish my point, right?
Pitt.
Okay.
So we need a round robin every year of Kentucky, Indiana, Louisville. That's one of the ones I had written down. But you know what else we need? And I don't know if it's going to keep happening. I don't know if it's going to continue. I know it got canceled during the COVID season. Tennessee and Memphis have to play every year. Got to be a thing.
Underrated.
They have to play every year, especially with Penny there and Rick Barnes there, and those guys are already kind of like button heads a little bit. You have to have Tennessee and Memphis play every year.
And another thing too, people don't realize it. Growing up in Tennessee, got to throw that out there. Middle and East Tennessee don't really consider West Tennessee part of Tennessee. Does that make sense? Like Tennessee split up into three different spots. Middle and East don't consider West Tennessee technically. It's more Arkansas. So like get it to like that's a game that needs to happen every year. I love that. Not only that, Tennessee likes to sneak into Memphis to get players. Like that's a great underrated rivalry.
Yeah, it's got to happen. What do you got, Fanta?
All right, I have a couple here. So the first one is I want Eric Musselman and Chris Beard to interact with one another. I want an Arkansas-Texas matchup every single freaking year. The charisma, the fan bases, Arkansas alone. If it ain't Arkansas, Texas, I will happily settle for Arkansas and Texas Tech. Let's combine the two crazy fan bases and let's just have a carnival. Field of 68 will come down to the game every year. We'll call it our invitational. We will literally, we will sponsor that game. We'll have Mama Hog punch Goodman in the face. It would be amazing. It would
get it right.
So that's my one. I don't think that submission can be topped. I've got two others that are a little bit selfish from my end, but I want to bring this up. So guys, I don't know if you remember this, but every year in Indiana, they had the Crossroads Classic. Last year was the final season of it. They took it off the map. And the schools, frankly, are not exactly thrilled about that This is an event in which Notre Dame would play Indiana or Purdue, and Butler would play Indiana or Purdue. Indiana and Purdue can't play each other because they're both in the same conference. But guys, if you've never been to this matchup, this showcase, I went one year. It was so cool. The field house in downtown where the Pacers play it was like a political convention. They had Indiana, Purdue, Butler, and Notre Dame. The fan bases basically combined and made the arena just packed and full with energy. So I am pleading. I don't know what needs to happen, but I'm pleading. Maybe you use Hinkle Fieldhouse, which did a great job hosting the NCAA tournament. Put the Crossroads Classic back on the map as early as you can, because I really like that for the state of Indiana in basketball. And then my last one that I would do, I want Sean Miller to call Anthony Grant. I want Dayton and Xavier back in college basketball.
That's
for a long time, the rivalry was what I would call vicious. Vicious. The two schools hate each other. They still hate each other. I was at Xavier last week, and I heard somebody say, God, I hate Cincinnati, but I really effing hate Dayton. And I was like, wait a minute. Xavier, Cincinnati, great rivalry. I wish I always love when Dayton plays Ohio State or a Xavier or one of the big guns in the state of Ohio. So I know that it probably benefits Dayton more so than some of these other schools, but I would love for Ohio to do something creative with the likes of Ohio State, Xavier, Cincinnati, and Dayton. I think that they could get outside the box, 4 different conferences and 4 big time programs.
Yeah, we need the in-state rivalries that don't happen because they're in different conferences to happen. Like we see, like Kentucky Louisville's awesome, right? And I'm not saying that Dayton Xavier or Dayton Ohio State or Tennessee Memphis or some of these other matchups will necessarily be on that same level, but there's going to be a lot of a healthy amount of dislike, and I think that that's a good thing. We need rivalries, man. There's nothing better than a good rivalry game. We said it last week, Fanta. We need that UConn Providence game to become the rivalry in the Big East.
And while we're at it, I look, I want UConn and Syracuse to get together again. I mean, I know there's some hatred there, and I think that'd be cool. Anytime those old Big East schools get back together, there's a lot of energy in the building. Have Calhoun coach one more game. Hurley could take the day off.
Oh man, yeah, that would be fun. We just need Syracuse to like be relevant again, right? Maybe finish above 500. When
I doubt it.
Yeah, we
I
need to.
doubt it. They're going to play like 6 or 7 freshmen a lot of minutes this year. They're just
how much longer without explaining? Like 2, 3 years, 4 years for Boeheim?
I don't think it'll be 4. That's a lot.
I don't if I were to go the over,
honestly, it's like how much longer do you think he's going to
take the under?
Here's the truth. How much longer do you think he's going to be alive? Because Jim Boeheim is going to coach until he literally keels over on the sideline.
I don't want to make it a discussion about that.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, like, I think that you're literally going to have to drag Jim Boeheim away from this. I think he just loves it that much. What else does he want to do? He's got a great life. He can do whatever he wants. He's the king of upstate New York. He's coaching his sons, right? He's got all of the people on staff that he loves around him. He does whatever he wants at the university. Well, you know what I'm saying? Like he just, so why, like what else does he have? Like what else would he want to do?
I think 2 years, Fanta, because I think this year is going to be rough. And then that returning freshman class, they got a lot of them. I think they'll be good as their sophomore year. And then he'll be like, all right.
We're dropping our merch. We got to start calling Underwood Daddy Brad. I'm a big pod guy. Breaking news. The Field of 68 has an online store, and it's your one-stop shop for the latest and greatest merch in college basketball and college football. You can find shirts to support your favorite team, make fun of your rival team, or boast Field of 68 catchphrases like Daddy Brad, Cussin' and Discussin', and the Star Heels. Go to www.fieldof68.shop today and enter promo code TOUCHDOWN for 20% off at checkout.